We took our budget for the entire month and a half, which was around $100,000, and we put that in a glass box and we hid it in the Norwegian forest. Then we live streamed it. It was actual cash in the box. By using the app, which is free to download and free to use, you can find hints to its location.
Misconception that consumers have about managing their personal finances?
A lot of people trust their bank too much.
You're kind of like gamifying the education of finance.
Most technology can be replicated, but building a strong brand is something that takes a really long time, and it's harder to tear down.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Future of Consumer Marketing podcast, and thank you for listening. My name is Andres Figueira. I'm located in Buenos Aires, Argentina, and I will be your host today. This show is brought to you by the Global Talent Company, which is a company that's connecting top remote professionals from Argentina, South Africa, and all over the world with leading tech companies worldwide. So if your team is looking to hire world-class talent from South America, South Africa, or anywhere else, just head on over to theglobaltalent.co and see how we can help. I'm also here with Alf Gunnar Andersen, CEO of Horde, which is an intelligent personal economy app which empowers thousands of consumers to manage their daily finances through actionable insights and innovative alternatives to traditional financial services. So how are you doing, Alf? It's a pleasure to have you here.
I'm doing great, Andreas, and very, very happy to be here.
Yes, we're very glad to have got you on this episode as well. And without further ado, Alf, if you would like to give us just a little bit of your background, what you've done, what Horde is, just so that we can give the audience a little bit more context.
Yeah, sure. So my background is that I have a degree in finance. So I worked in the finance space as a financial advisor for 9 years. Previous to that, I worked at our family company. So my father is also an entrepreneur, of course, within oil and gas industry, because that's what Norway basically does.
Of course.
So I figured at some point it kind of runs in your blood. You want to start something and create something yourself. So after becoming partner in the firm I previously worked at, I felt the urge to do something more.
Okay.
And at the same time, you had PSD2, which is this European regulation that basically solidifies that you own your banking data and you can share that with other third parties. I thought that this is something that's really going to have an impact. It's going to open up the market and open up for new players to deliver real good financial solutions for people. And I wanted to create something for this space.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting. And being able to manage like your own personal banking details to send to third parties, that is different because at least here in Argentina, my understanding is banks own all the info I have. Like I have no way of actually leveraging what they have or knowing that. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. And this leads me to my first question. Like when you begin Horde, how are you able to convince thousands of Norwegians to trust the startup with their money when traditional banks have always been around and usually they give people a bit more trust than a new app or something like that?
That is one of the big hurdles that you have to surpass. And I think that you have to create something really compelling for the end user. For our case, we were like the first app probably in the world where you could, with one simple login, suddenly see all your credit cards and consumer loans and Klarna debt and whatever, like outstanding consumer debt you had in one space. So that was pretty compelling. And we also, of course, got some pushback from the large banks because they're not super happy when you try to enter their domain because basically what we are is a platform, right? So mm-hmm. we show you, we're bank agnostic. We show you the data wherever your bank is, and we let other banks connect and kind of compete for you as a customer. So of course that will increase competition in the market. We also did then have some banks that tried to kind of sidestep us, and that became some media stories. And that's how basically you can build confidence as well, right? Because then you could read about us, and if you Google us, you saw that this is it's a company that is actually in the mainstream media here trying to create better solutions for individuals. But we also, of course, have a podcast which have quite a good following. So it's kind of building the brand from the ground up. As an entrepreneur, you have to kind of dare to be the face of the brand, which is not something that I intended to be or really wanted to be, but it's kind of like the way it turned out. So yeah.
Okay, I get that. Now, and you being the CEO, I imagine you're the face of the brand because it's what gives people the most confidence in what you're saying and what Horde is representing. But okay, it was funny to me when I heard that banks were trying to sidestep you guys, but it must be a little bit intimidating for a bank that always has the control over the people that get into their system, and being able to just see it all within one app. I do think that's really cool. Like that really provides a lot of insight for people. And how is it that, Alf, that you're able to turn what would be in, I would say, a common person's mind, like boring financial data, into insights that actually help change people's behavior?
Well, I think the first step is to acknowledge that this is pretty boring, right? It's not something you have other things you want to spend your time doing. So going into how can we solve these issues for you with the least amount of friction for you as a consumer. So being really, really determined that you're going to create stuff that people actually need and want to use. So sidestep a lot of the big tech, like everyone's trying to create this app that tells you that you're spending too much money on Starbucks or something like that. But consumers don't necessarily want that. They want to have, they want to be in control, and they want to have simple, clean design and in quick calls to action to fix if there's a problem. So one of the main things we also have is that we have probably the best loan application system in the world. So we fetch your data. It takes you about a minute, and then you will have offer from probably 10 different banks, which is quite quick. You don't have to go into and identify yourself. Everything's electronically. So yeah.
Wow, that's cool. And have you seen any surprising or weird user behavior that you've discovered since launching the personal app?
That's a really good question. we do see that we have different types of users, right? We have some people who are in financial distress and they have a lot of debt and they need to use the app to have an overview. And for them, we're trying to build this overview and then guide them to, which debt should you tackle first, and how can we build something that visualizes your progress here? So you actually get positive reinforcements when you're doing good stuff. So we built something that's called a reward store. So if you pay down a credit card before it becomes interest bearing, you get points. If your debt shrinks from 1 month to another, you get points. And all these. So we have a lot of these different. We have an economy quiz each week that is like, if you buy this from Klarna and this is the interest rate, how much will it cost in blah 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 blah. So kind of teaching you about finances that way, and you get points for all these tasks, and you can redeem the points for different gifts, and actually also additional down payments on your debt. So we know from our own data and from our partner banks data that customers that use the Horde app are significantly healthier than the general population who has debt issues. And that's a win-win. For you as a consumer, it's a win for the bank because they don't want you to default, and it's a win for us, of course.
No, of course, and it's like a super useful tool. And I love the fact that you're kind of like gamifying the education of finance, and receiving points and being able to redeem it gives it gives concrete rewards to a person who doesn't even know if they're doing the right thing. But that's a really noble cause, like helping them understand and educating them financially. It'll really help them to avoid having them be in that situation once more. If they get your app and they have a bunch of money in debt and they pay it all out, hopefully they'll not be in debt again. And
then we see that we have other users. Like we have users who just really like to use their credit cards to accumulate points. So So then we're trying to ask ourselves, okay, what service can we offer these individuals, right? So we started with the one that we felt was the most in need, and it's also for us the most commercial viable customers, because they probably need to refinance their debt, and then a new bank will then be willing to pay us to get them as a customer, of course. But yeah, so trying to segment what are the different use cases that your people or your customers are using your product for, and trying to then build some revenue channels that is custom to those groups.
Okay. And Alf, do you believe that there is any traditional banking practice that fintech companies should completely avoid or abandon? I'm not sure. Like I'm thinking about how usual banks work, the processes they have, and if you as a fintech, maybe you use some of how banks work as an inspiration, or maybe you saw things they do that it's like, this is not going to work for us. This is maybe.
I think I understand. Like there's like a fine line there, because of course banks have been doing this for thousands of years. So there are of course some best practices that they've kind of, but also we see a lot of things that they do basically because that's how it's always been done, right? So
exactly.
So we are now 32, 33 people in Horde, and we have one person who has worked in a bank before.
Okay.
So I think it's a strength for us, because we
kind of like a double agent.
Yeah, but like we needed him because he understood a bit. He's like our partner manager, so he understands the banking language and how the market works there, and so he's better at that. But developing a problem, it's not a solution to a problem. It can be good to come from the outside and ask really stupid questions and say, well, why are we doing this? What can we do? Why can't we do it like that? And sometimes you're wrong. And you spend a lot of time going down a rabbit hole and seeing that, okay, the banks are actually really, the way they're doing it is good. And sometimes you find something that's really valuable and can increase efficiency quite a lot.
Okay. And is there a way that you guys try to balance all the data-driven, this app is very data-driven, and how do you balance maintaining the human touch with so much financial data and like the debts and how you show it to the consumers? Is it maybe in the branding of the application or in how you got the UI to work?
I would say it's a bit of both. Like our branding is, we have a fairly high and good brand recognition in Norway, and that is because I would say we've been true to our values. We also have a lot of both influencers and media profiles that speak highly of us, that join our podcast because they see that we are actually doing stuff that works. That means that sometimes you have to turn down like a quick buck to build a brand in the long term. And I truly believe that is the way to build a sustainable business, because most technology can be replicated, but building a strong brand is something that takes a really long time and it's harder to tear down. So yeah, I would say it's the brand, and it's of course also the features that we are developing. So
the ones you're implementing. Okay. And do you know of any big misconception that consumers have about managing their personal finances?
Well, a lot of people trust their bank too much. Right? I don't think that comes as a surprise, because you go to this advisor and if you're going to get there a mortgage, you're kind of like happy you just got a mortgage and you don't think much about, okay, what's the interest rate here?
Of course.
Because you have other pressing issues. You want to buy a house, right? And it's the same if you're buying a car or you want to go on vacation and you don't have the money right away, and you're more interested in getting it financed than thinking about, okay, what are the terms here? And I do think that a lot of like the jargon that is in the banking sector, is very, I don't think that people know enough about it. And you have this very digitalized society now where you kind of expect that this knows everything and everything is just optimized for you. But with banking, there are so high regulatory barriers that even though it's become digitized, it's still the same boring products, and you're paying fees for stuff you really shouldn't be paying fees for.
Okay.
So, but you don't know any better because it's not a product that you want to read a book about. It's you want to,
No, that's true. And banks, as you've mentioned, since they've been here for so long, people have them as the source of trust and the way to get a quick solution when they need a financial help or to ask for a loan or something like that. The first place you go is a bank. But it's true that in those times of need, you don't look that much into the future to see how much it'll cost you or whatever, and you'll just go for whatever interest rate they give you. You'll go for whatever interest rate they give you as long as they actually lend you the money in the spot. So I get that.
and what I find is really strange is that it's a very homogeneous product, right? Mm-hmm. It's basically $1 or 1 krona in Norway. It has the exact same purchasing power. There's no brand involved here, right? It's basically,
okay, of course,
this is the value of what you get. So you should try and get that dollar as cheap as possible, right? So it's, in some ways, it's easy to build products if you have that mindset that you're really focusing on that. When it comes to like insurance, it's a bit more complicated because you have different degrees of coverage that should be customized. But banking products, it's like, and you heard probably the term like Bill Gates says that we need banking, but we don't need banks.
Exactly, it's true.
and I feel that's really, really true. But there's such a huge regulatory capture and trust that is built in the banking industry that it takes some time to disrupt it.
Yeah, no, and it's been a while, even with these new fintech companies, with the cryptocurrency market, like there's a lot of things that are moving, that are kind of swaying the grasp banks have on the world. But talking about that, do you, like, what's it called? Do you see any way that you build trust with your consumers while disrupting an industry such as the banking that you're mentioning right now?
Yeah, like, one of the first thing we did, and it was a really easy feature actually, was to make it simpler for you to cancel credit cards.
Okay.
So we've sent like almost 700,000 credit cards to Cancellation in Norway, and that was because how it works in Norway is that if you have a credit card and you're not using it, the potential balance that you can put on a credit card, that actually decreases the amount you can get in a mortgage. And people didn't know that. Wow. So if you had like 200,000 kroners in a unused credit card, that would decrease the amount of credit you could get on a mortgage.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
So we, of course, then said, hey, people should know about this. And we built a feature so you can basically click in the app and then cancel credit cards.
Okay.
But then, of course, one of the bigger banks, or the biggest bank in Norway, they started to try and sidestep that solution. So then that became like a media story.
Okay. Wow. I imagine, like, I'm comparing it to the fact that nowadays it's becoming a whole thing, being able to provide the cancel button for any subscription that you have, because they make it super difficult. And also canceling your credit card, you being able to provide a one-stop shop to just press a button and have that cancel, that really does help people out a lot. A lot. Okay. And I did not know that specific thing about Norway. That's very interesting. Like, it decreases your ability to get a loan later.
In the US, it's the other way around. Like, the more credit cards you have, the more like credit line you can get. But in Norway, it's actually the opposite. The more credit line you have, the more reduced mortgage you get.
Okay. Like, if I think about it logically, it's like, okay, if you have that credit line, you need to pay that, so you won't be able to pay the mortgage. Maybe it comes like through that reasoning.
Yeah, because let's say that you have this mortgage, but the bank sees that, okay, but you have also $1 million or $150,000 that you could draw up here at any given time. And if you do that, you won't be able to pay the mortgage. So there are some national rules there that the bank has to do this calculation, and then they have to include the potential usage of these credit lines.
Okay, wow. So it's like avoiding having to owe more in case that happens. Okay. And Alf, how has Horde been able to, I imagine the media exposure with all the sidestepping of the big bank you mentioned when you created that feature, help. But like, how do you properly compete with tech giants and banks who have unlimited marketing budgets and brand recognition?
Well, that is one of the probably like the biggest obstacles we had to face here, a couple of years ago, when we you reach a certain point on like virality alone, and then you have to start to do some marketing stuff. And like, since our main business is currently refinancing more expensive debt like credit cards and consumer loans, that is a very expensive space to be in. It's the most expensive Google search term you can have in the Nordics. Like,
wow.
At some point, it costs up to $100 just for a click on Google.
I had no idea. That's crazy. Okay.
So it's probably the most expensive in the world. So we have competitors who are using like $100 million a year on marketing in this space. Probably around a third of that is into the Norwegian market, and then we have a very limited budget. So for us, it was kind of like, okay, we can't compete on outspent, and we know that these players, they're sometimes spending money just to buy out the ad space, so competitors like us don't get in.
Okay.
So they're willing to lose money over a certain period just to keep us out. So for us, it was kind of like, okay, we have this marketing budget, which is like 15 times less than what they have. So what we did was we also said, okay, how can we get the most exposure for this? So what we did was actually we took our budget for the entire month and a half, which was around $100,000, or a million Norwegian kroners, and we put that in a glass box, and we hid it in the Norwegian forest, and then we live streamed it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was actual cash in the box.
Okay.
And by using the app, which is free to download and free to use, you can find hints to its location.
Oh my God. And that was how you got people to actually download the app and start using it and stuff to see if they could find the hint?
So we had at that point a quite good user base already. But that stunt went quite viral because like people were all over the Norwegian woods trying to find this treasure chest, basically. And so I think that we got like approximately that week we got like 60,000 new users.
Wow. And wait, did anybody find the box?
Yeah. So you had I think you had like 20,000 people watching the live stream at 3 o'clock in the morning when the box was discovered.
Oh my goodness.
It actually was inspired by, I don't know if you remember it, but Shia LaBeouf, he had this flag that he planted and the internet kept finding it. So he moved it to a new location. And then, so we kind of like, that was really cool. What if we do that with 1 million kroners? So, then you have to tie it into your brand, of course. Why do we do this? And so the number was 1,087,973 kroners, which was the number of people with interest-bearing consumer debt in Norway at that time.
Okay, so the number also had a meaning. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So that's basically a third of each adult. But no one wants to admit that they have credit card debt that is interest-bearing or consumer loans because it's kind of like looked frowned upon.
Yeah. It looks like you're a bad payer, like you don't pay your debts.
But in reality, like 1 of every 3 adults has this debt. So we want to kind of to remove some of the shame for it, and then show you that this app helps you to have overview of this, and you can actually pay it down and get better control of your finances.
Okay, no. And if we're talking about this disruptive marketing stints, that was amazing. Like that is a cool way to market your brand and your app. Like I would have gone in the forest and looked for that 1 million kroners as well. Like,
yeah, but we actually did it one more time, and that was also okay. It didn't have the same punch, but it was a very successful campaign. But our biggest issue now is that you have these groups on both Discord and Facebook with thousands of people who are monitoring our campaigns.
Okay.
So people are so good at finding it that it's hard for us to kind of
hide it well.
basically, because you have like one Discord group with like 1,500 people, and they analyze. They have people all on there all the time. They analyze the flight patterns, the sound, the wildlife, the weather, and they overlay all this stuff. So
it's geolocation, and they're just like determining it on Google Maps before even going. Oh my god!
And this is like in the middle of the woods, right? So it's kind of. And that also, we had to build like a rig that would survive out in live stream from the woods. And you would think that would just be putting a couple of car batteries there. It's not.
Oh my goodness! Okay, with the whole process, being able to create something that would withstand and film everything.
Yeah, what we ended up doing was to basically we had to have it at a power outlet, and then we just had like very long cable to get it out there, because you have to have like, I think we calculated like 400 kilos of batteries to sustain it for a week if we're going to have it.
How long was the cable that you guys used?
I don't know. It was probably we got a cabin that was fairly isolated, and then we probably had like 50 meters of 200 meters of cable out in the woods from there.
Oh my god! I love it. It just sounds like such a genuine stunt to do, and the way you guys pulled it off is just so wholesome.
And we did it all internally. We did not use any agencies to help us.
Okay. No, that speaks volumes as well. That's super cool. And you mentioned that the Horde team is about 30 people, just 35?
Yeah, 32 people now.
Okay, and how do you know, Alf, when it's time to actually expand the team, or that you needed to open up a new role? Is there any SOP that you have, or just like as the need comes, you'll fulfill that?
You, like as the CEO, of course, have to try and look around the bend and what we need in like 6 to 12 months. Both in when it comes to office space and the different team dynamics. But yeah, we're fairly conservative when we hire, actually. So we try to figure out what do we actually need and have a good process there. And it's always like we're growing, then we add more people, and you have to, like you say in Norway, you don't want to get ahead of your skis.
Okay, of course.
You have to make sure that you're kind of keeping this balance. And so knock on wood, we haven't been in a position where we had to downsize yet.
Okay.
I know a lot of other startups that went for like 12 people, and then they went to 60, and then they had to downscale to 25, and it caused so much turmoil in the organization. So, and in Norway, there's very strict hiring policies. So if you hire someone, you're stuck with them for a while.
Okay, wow.
So making sure that if we do hire, that it's a good fit and it's something that we actually need. And yeah.
Okay. Wow. I understand that. Okay. And Alf, have you noticed any changes in consumer behavior and money management since the pandemic to nowadays? Because, let me check.
Yes. We see that there's a growing trend, especially about, it's actually across the board, but especially with young people, that they're using these buy now, pay later services like Klarna, right, or other vendors. And that I think is a concern. It's so easy now. Like even I went to a hairdresser to cut my kids' hair, and even there I could pay with Klarna in a physical store. So you kind of remove this friction that can be useful to kind of make you think twice.
Okay, and avoid getting into debt just because of whatever.
Yeah, like I think now that 45% of our refinancing applications, they contain Klarna debt, which is spiked massively in the after the pandemic, basically. Mm-hmm. So obviously Klarna is doing well, which is good for them. And I use Klarna myself, but it's kind of like, I think there should be an age limit to it. I don't think you should have person that's 18, 19, 20 years old, and like they're very impulsive. Their brains have fully developed from thinking consequential, and it's very hard and destructive for them to kind of start up their grown-up life with $15,000-$20,000 in consumer debt, which is not necessarily a lot if you're like in your 40s. Mm-hmm. But if you're 21, you feel basically that you've screwed up your life, and you get you kind of give up on everything. So I think that something should be done there to kind of ensure that we don't let we have 21 years drinking age on liquor in Norway, for example.
Okay.
You should at least have the same for this unsecured debt.
Of course, if you have the judgment to at least consume alcohol, you should wait until you have also the judgment to get into debt. Because what I do get is that students and young people, they're in difficult spots where they need money, but nowadays it's harder for younger people to actually make the same amount of money that our parents or our grandparents used to make. And I do get that starting debt and then just having 20,000 when you're 25 years old it's a bit daunting, and it could lead to depression and a bunch of other stuff that they just won't get out of if they don't work it out well. But okay, I understand that, and I agree as well. And finally, what has been the biggest challenge that you, Alf, has faced as a CEO when you've been scaling Horde and this fintech product that you have?
There's been many challenges, but I'm trying to think of something that not everyone would say. And I think that would be basically how yourself you have to change on this journey from being like when we were 3 people in the beginning and just building stuff. Mm-hmm. And then you go through a transformation when you're like 12, 13, 15 people, you start to see that you can't be everywhere at once. So then you have to kind of let go of some reins, and that can be quite hard for a founder to do.
Of course, delegating and being able to give that person the opportunity to actually do the work.
Yeah, and build like a strong team. So we have some really talented people working here now, and we have done some changes along the way, and it took some time to kind of get that flow. And build like now I have a pretty strong group of leaders here who can on technical, on marketing, on legal. So I would say personally that has been like a growth thing for me to kind of also get out of their way, right? And let they own that space, but also being able to support them and let them sometimes accept that people make mistakes.
No, I do understand. And more when it's a company that begins small, that you're just 3 people. It's like, why would I bring anybody else if I could just do it myself? And you get that, like you get used to that. And then when it grows, it's difficult to let things go. But I totally get that. And a lot of respect for you being able to do that and accept it, because not many people are also able to just say that it's difficult, because it's not easy. It happens to me as well with the work I do and everything else. So I get that. And Alf, is there any plans? Because from what we've spoken and what I've heard, I understand that Horde is just in Norway right now. But are you guys planning on maybe expanding throughout Europe, throughout the world? Are there any ideas for that?
Definitely. Like scaling fintech is a bit hard because it's not like image sharing app. It's not Snapchat. You can't just like flip a switch and then be in several markets.
Yeah,
you have to abide by local regulation and also local technical infrastructure.
Of course.
So that is kind of probably the biggest challenge. So, but we have some features that we're going to launch this year to improve the products. Of course, we're putting a lot of AI into the app to increase the value there. But then we are looking at the Nordic markets first, which have quite serious regulation and infrastructure.
Of course.
And then in a couple of years' time, you have something called PSD3 and FIDA, which, because today PSD2 is basically just with payments accounts, like your bank account, where you can pay bills and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. With PSD3 and finance, it's basically both your financial information and insurance information has to open up
Okay, cool.
So for us, it's kind of like position ourselves doing the Nordics now, but at the same time position ourselves with solution that we then can expand into other European countries when these railways open up.
As soon as PSD3 starts, you'll be able to just hop on that and make sure you provide that information.
But yeah, that's the general idea of it. But of course, you have strong players lobbying not to make it super easy and convenient.
Oh my God, it's crazy how from what I'm hearing from your story, there's been a lot of pushback from the mainstream banks and the traditional industry that has been monopolizing all that for so long. But okay, it's been amazing that you guys have been able to grow. And Alf, we're almost at time here. So, because I know you must be very busy. It's Monday. I don't want to take more from your day, but I would love if you could maybe just, if anybody from Norway is listening, or if somebody's interested in Horde, just how could they get more information? How could they register to the application? Just provide them a little bit of direction if anybody here is hearing and is interested.
If they want to reach me or Horde, it will probably be on LinkedIn or something like that. If you want to download that, you can just go to horde.no and you can download it there. So.
Oh, okay. And you're also on the App Store, on Play Store, all those.
Yeah. So of course we're all on those platforms. So
okay, amazing.
It's only open if you are in the Norwegian Google Play and App Store.
Okay. Well, fingers crossed you'll get into the Nordic market, in the other Nordic countries, and then around the world. Hopefully, I'll see Horde one day in Argentina telling me if I want to cancel a credit card or not, and how much debt I do or do not have. But hopefully, fingers crossed, man. But thank you so much for the time, Alf. I'm sure the audience is going to enjoy this very much, and it has been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.